we have an activity today and you'll be doing a collage work as inspired by one of my works, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you want to share some images that you brought today? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So these are like travel related. So it's something that I love to do. I love traveling. This one's related to horse riding, which I sometimes do. This reminds me of myself at work.
Right.
So this,
Yeah.
I just thought it was really beautiful.
The central focus would be the figure, which is
Yeah.
supposed to be representative of you. But I think we can also maybe use other sort of elements as well to sort of support the figures. And I think slowly gradually we will add more images on top of each other to sort of like see what we can create.
Okay.
Often, when you sort of like isolate found images from newspapers or from magazines, right? And they are isolated from their original context. It's quite surprising or even interesting to see the works taking sort of like new meanings and how when you construct them together, like the collage that I did, sometimes a new narrative can also come about from it. Importantly, you have to relate to the image that you chose.
As an artist, how do you think people in Singapore perceive the arts?
I think when it comes to relation making, it really depends a lot on like your worldview and where you come from. So often when we think about art appreciation or when we think about understanding art, it's like as if like there's a singular meaning to art, but actually it really is very contingent to how you were brought up or what's your worldview.
So a large part of your work is focused on your ethnic identity. What made you get into that?
Right. I mean, like in terms of materials, right, or in terms of inspiration that is sort of like easily accessible to me would be my identity. It's something that I live with. It's something that I sort of negotiate with every day.
So how do you approach your curatorial work as opposed to your artwork?
Right, that's a very good question. In fact, I actually see curation or my curatorial work as an extension of my artistic work. So in that sense, I address or I rather identify myself as an artist curator. So I'm actually an artist first. I think there are values as an artist, right, that can be also sort of like placed in curatorial work. So in that sense, the process do not differ much when it comes to my artistic work, but of course there are certain logistical factors like having to stage an exhibition or having to consider perspectives from different artists when you do group exhibitions, for example. So it's less about yourself, but it's more about others and how you can sort of like put people together and communicate a certain theme that you are interested in foregrounding. Yeah.
So when people visit, do you feel a sense of pressure in terms of how they perceive what you have put together?
I'm not sure about how other curators or other artists feel, but for me, every time when I create a work or after I sort of curate a show, I tend to sort of like detach myself from the work.
Okay.
Yeah. So irregardless of the perceptions, the reviews or the feedbacks, I tend to be quite neutral or very calm by certain responses, just because I understand that the work is done, it's complete, and once you put it out, it's not really up to you to control in that sense. Yeah. To some extent, it's also quite healthy in the way I sort of approach my art making.
It's not simply a matter of putting things together. Like you do need to think about how they all come together, in a sense, to make a story that you can relate with and that you can tell as well. I would say it's enlightening.